very beginning, I realized I saw the world differently than everyone else. That didn't sit well with some people.
Cruella is another Disney live-action movie resurrecting a nostalgic villain with something for everyone. Cute dogs, silly hijinks, great music, and a lot of talk about murder. Matt, we're talking about Cruella.
Yes, Cruella, 2021. That's this year, and that's the year that the movie came out.
Exciting.
It was directed by Craig Gillespie. Sorry if I butchered that. Starring Emma Stone, Emma Thompson, Mark Strong, CGI dogs, so much more. IMDb, its synopsis is, let's see, a live-action prequel feature film following a young Cruella de Vil. Straight and to the point. Thanks, IMDb. Let's talk about this movie. Let's try to avoid spoilers. I don't want, it's a new Disney film. I'm not trying to spoil anything fun, but we will get into spoilers later. Cruella. A origin story of a villain. I didn't think I needed this movie. I wasn't too amped going in and excited to watch it, and I feel like that kind of influenced my opinion on the movie.
Okay.
But before watching it, we had some discussions, and you said it was approachable and had a lot for everyone. I mean, you just said that, and I think that's a very good point. Before I get into anything about the plot or specific performances, just want to say, front up, the costuming, the set design, and the score at times in this movie, great, phenomenal. I was visually engaged with the set design, the costuming for most of the film. If anything, it was the performances in some places, but mostly the story and the plot progression that lost me. Matt, what did you think about Cruella on the whole?
Yeah, I wasn't interested in watching this because Disney has been constantly bringing back old franchises, and we saw
Lion King.
Yeah, and some of them
Beauty
are
and the
great,
Beast.
And then there's Aladdin, the live action one, and the less said about that, the better.
We watched and reviewed Beauty and the Beast, and you can watch that. Go onto our playlists on a 90s Kid video and look at movie reviews. We both really liked Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that was solid. It had its weaknesses. Yeah. But for Cruella, I wasn't that excited. I didn't really see the point. And then I sat down and watched it, and it was a big moment for us because we've been in a quarantine lockdown, and it's warm enough. We had some tents for some reason. I had a projector. We were able to have my girlfriend's parents over, her friend who has an 11-year-old daughter, who are both really into fashion and making their own clothes. And we had a movie night, a safe, COVID-friendly movie night. And I think that really helped me watch this movie because I could hear how everyone else was reacting to it, and the movie had something for everybody. I was really into the music and some of the shots and like the overall swagger. A lot of the women I was watching with, I think, really responded to like these badass bitches brawling, and also like fashion being everything, and clothes, and just like style and finding your place in the world. A lot of Oz in our tiny audience from all the cute dogs. I couldn't believe how many dogs were in this film. So
they got a lot of dogs. They got a lot of dogs. They mixture. That was something that kind of pulled me out. They have so like Matt was saying, is a lot in the movie. For the first half, we follow Cruella as a young child. She's getting in trouble at school and stuff. She befriends like a small little puppy, and the puppy is CGI. Later on in the movie, she's older and the dog is older. I think that is a real dog. There's also another smaller dog called Wink who has like an eye patch. At points, I couldn't tell if it was CGI, if it was real, but sometimes the dogs pulled me out of it because the CGI was obvious, but the through line is that the dogs are adorable. If anything, the dogs have more character development than a lot of the male characters in this movie. I was going to reprimand you for referring to them as bitches brawling earlier, Matt, but really that's what this is Emma Stone and Emma Thompson playing two kind of bitchy characters that have their endearing moments, but this is a villain origin story. This doesn't have like a super happy ending where everything's redemptive. Like, it's going from a Stella, who is what I just said, this young kid who has some trouble and some angst, becoming the Cruella we know. I thought the first half of this movie, or at least like the first 10 minutes, there's an opening narration where she's talking about her life as a child. I thought that all really worked, and I was engaged. There's some cool little heisty, thiefy stuff that I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the movie, and we'll talk about when we get into spoilers, they tried to kind of wrap all the lines. This is where we're going to connect it to the older films, and I thought that's where it kind of lost me.
Yeah.
But I was engaged in the beginning, and it was notably dark, notably serious. Like you said, lots of talks of death.
Yeah. When for a movie that has a lot of silly stuff for kids, like the humor can be kind of silly and very physical, and it's a lot of cute dogs and stuff. But then there's a lot of talk of like, I'm going to kill you, and I've killed a lot of people, and
I'm going to kill your dogs. And
yeah, which I mean, in the original
cartoon,
it was about a villain who wanted to kill dogs, but I never.
It was an animated movie, though.
And also, there were no dogs dying. There was no no actual suggestion of that happening. I'd say. Yeah. I was pretty surprised. I laughed a lot in probably the first half. Where the movie,
there's some chuckles for me.
I'd say the problems for me with the movie is that it felt really overwritten. Like I felt like the movie reached it reached a climax, and I go, "Wow, good movie." And then there was another 25 minutes ending where they had to build up all over again, and I felt like that didn't need to be there. They tried to bring in some kind of a twist that I didn't think was necessary. You mentioned the heist stuff, which was kind of fun, but I felt like, is this a movie about like someone finding their place in the world, about the fashion, which was the coolest stuff? Like all the heist stuff was okay, but I felt like it just sort of desensitized, or like it watered it down for me.
Well, and it clashed. They didn't just early on. They're kind of saying, "Well, this is the heist stuff. She's pickpocketing. It's kind of what they need to do to live on these streets and stuff." And then later, they kind of retain after there's a time jump, and she becomes Emma Stone. The younger kid is played, or the younger Estella Cruella is played by a kid, and they jump to Emma Stone. They still do some of the heisty stuff, but there's a bigger emphasis now on the fashion, on what Estella wants to do with her life. And like you said, they're exploring that. What's your place in the world? But there's always this little backseat kind of one of her buddies, Horace and Jasper, the characters you'll know that if you've seen the original film, Horace is always like, what's the angle? He's always searching for some way to do a con or to rip something off. And I felt like maybe they should have either disconnected or chose one path because it was constantly overshadowing one or the other. It was a little heist thing, but also the fashion was the focus, and we were kind of detracting from one other. Also, like you said, it was kind of overwritten. So there's a lot of subplots, a lot of dialogue that didn't need to be in there. And then this whole kind of ending thing. Actually, when me and my partner were watching it, we kind of called the whole over arc of all the characters about 20 minutes in. The only thing we didn't call was that kind of weird, like we were saying, twist last 20 minutes, which I didn't think needed to be there. But if we're going to call this film Cruella and not The Devil Wears Prada featuring Emma Stone and, whatever, you need those connections.
Yeah, that's the thing with this movie is that all the parts that really worked for me, I felt like this didn't need to be 101 Dalmatians. It just felt like the only way Disney is going to make this movie is if they say 101 Dalmatians Cruella, because this gets people talking. Yes. Like it's my girlfriend is not going to say, "Hey, I heard about a great drama
featuring Emma Stone and Emma Thompson."
Emma Stone and Emma Thompson are feuding fashion designers, which actually would be totally up her alley. But people hear this, they go, 101 Dalmatians, I remember that. And then
nostalgia grab.
And then, like you were saying, it felt like, well, now that we've done this, we do need to have a bit of a payoff. So
the more I think about this movie, the more I want to talk about specific scenes. And since this is a new movie, I want to give the audience like a spoiler warning. But Matt, is there anything you want to talk about in the overarch before we get into spoilery stuff?
I'd say if you haven't seen it yet, our non-spoiler recommendation, I would say that even though there are some things that we've been picking at, overall it's really successful. I had a lot of fun, and the people around me, ranging from their late 70s to 11 years old, had a lot of fun. There were some really cool, they use music really well, and
it's set in 1964 and then jumps 10 years to the 1970s. So there's a lot of cool 70s rock and stuff that I really appreciated.
Like there's a use of a Stooges song that I will talk about in the spoiler section that really got me. So overall, I would recommend this movie to just about anybody. Best seen in groups. It's worth calling it Cruella and using that namesake. So a recommendation from me.
I'm a little bit less optimistic is the wrong word. I just don't think this movie was for me. It has a lot of merits as a film. I think where it has problems is the spoiler stuff we're going to get into, very specific scenes and clashing of tones and ideas. But I think if you were a fan of 101 Dalmatians, if you like Emma Stone, if you like fashion, if you like the 70s as a like period piece kind of thing, if you like strong female leads, performances, and characters, it's worth a watch. Just know that if you're not a huge fan of the Cruella character, a fan of Disney stuff in general, it'll probably lose you. For me, I was on like more of the underside of, it was okay, but my partner really enjoyed it. I think there's merits. So for me, just not 100% there, but I think people will enjoy it. So if you have any interest in seeing it, probably watch it. You'll enjoy it.
I guess they were always scared that I'd be a psycho.
But let's move into spoilers, Matt. This is the big.
Okay.
This is the big. Okay, so I was saying in the beginning, I thought the opening narration worked. You have her as a kid; she's getting in trouble in school. They have to move. Her and her single mother have to move to London because there's no school for her. She got expelled. So she goes to meet up with a friend at this big fashion party, and it still had this whimsical Disney air of it. Estella, she has her little puppy. They kind of sneak out of the car, and they're looking around this party. The Dalmatians pop up, who are owned by the lady who's throwing this party, and she gets in kind of like a slapsticky tussle. She's making a scene at the party, and then the Dalmatians run outside and Spartan kick her mom off a cliff. And right there, I went, no. And immediately the dark tone they were establishing very well, and it went into Disney. And I was like, I can buy this if it's Disney, but you're not establishing it as Disney. You're kind of trying to make it more serious. And then the rest of the movie, especially as you get into Emma Stone stuff and her versus Emma Thompson, Emma Thompson is really good. I wish I would have said that in the non-spoiler section. Like, props to both Emma Stone and Emma Thompson. Fierce performances, fantastic.
Emma Stone is so good. She's somebody that can do the really klutzy, like funny comedy of like, I'm a schlub and I'm dirty and things are falling, but she can also pull off like model poses, and she can play both ranges really, really well. She was pretty well cast for this. And the accent wasn't terrible.
Yeah, if anything, the accent was, and that's even spotted in the movie as she makes her kind of transformation from Estella to Cruella, embracing the darker aspects of her personality. She adopts a more posh kind of prissy accent, and even her friends Jasper and Horace are like, "Why are you still doing the voice?" Right. And it felt fake to me in the moment, and it continued to feel fake, which maybe not like the character, but then again, I think that's the point. Or is it the point? This is a villain. Either way,
I just felt like she was just trying to sound like the Baroness. She was going for like a direct copy of that.
Which also makes sense when you get into the spoiler stuff, because it would make sense that she would echo that because, well, we'll talk about it. But a lot of the middle of this movie is, I like a lot of scenes, a lot of intense dialogue scenes. It kind of went into a more serious territory. So we go from Dalmatians kicking her mom off a cliff, very silly. She escapes into London at 10 years old. And she lives on the streets for 10 years. They're like, she, as an 11-year-old child or whatever, she just survives in 1964 London. I wanted to see that movie. So once they kind of went into the Devil Wears Prada fashion designer fighting, or, battle of the wills and egos, I was enjoying it. But then towards the end, they pull a whole nother, it's a big Disney moment. You talk more, Matt, because I don't want to get right to the end of the movie right now, but...
Well, like I said in the previous part, is that I felt like the movie, I was enjoying it the whole way through, and then there's a big climax about 25 minutes before where she wins, everything's good, and then they have to kind of bring it down, and then they want her to find out that the Baroness is actually her mother. They're going for this sort of Star Wars, Luke, I'm your father kind of thing. And
that's how they tie into how she got the mansion and how she got the dogs, and it feels like this whole kind of rushed way of like,
it all happened so fast. It was basically like the sequel was crammed into 25 minutes. Right at the end, they're like, oh yeah, we need to tie this up to. It's like anytime you're doing a prequel, all of a sudden you wonder like, how much do we need to tie it up?
And a lot of the things in there too is when they started rushing characters. For example, Emma Stone and Emma Thompson are really the big focal, as they should be, characters. There's a few male characters on the side. the Baroness has like an assistant. All he does is sit there and look weird. He's always just emoting when things happen. Mark Strong plays another one of his assistants. If you know anything about actors and who's considered like higher or lower on the pecking scale, Mark Strong is a well-respected actor, but he has very little lines at all. And so for most of the movie, I'm sitting there, I'm like, why is Mark Strong just sitting there not saying anything? And my partner went, well, he's probably going to switch sides and then go on her side, Cruella's side, and then become a bigger character, which is exactly what happened. So you felt like the focus kind of swaying, but they were trying to include everybody. And in the end, they were like, all right, let's wrap up all these plot things really quickly in this kind of convoluted second ending that really doesn't connect a whole lot. Oh, and then also we're going to tie it back to the original. Like there's the Roger, the lawyer, who becomes the Roger from the original movie. They just have like a scene with him just so they can establish that early on and then have a twist ending at the end there.
Okay, right.
Anita Darling, her friend who she's friends with in the school, she kind of takes pictures of the Baroness. She's like a fashion photographer, but even her is very underdeveloped until she needs her in the end to send her a puppy. And it feels like where the movie was succeeding is when it ignored all like the connections to the Disney stuff. Like you said, just focusing on the fashion v fashion battle of egos.
Yeah. Because when they have those set pieces of the Baroness having a big party, and they've built the Baroness up as this, as somebody who just rules and dominates, and then for Cruella to really cleverly show up when they did that after she kidnaps the dogs, and they show up and they have the punk concert, and they play "I Want to Be Your Dog" by the Stooges, and she shows up and she's full on Cruella, the Dalmatian outfit. It's like, this is so fucking cool. This song is used so perfectly, and that's where I thought,
punk.
it was really punky. It was so badass and the perfect band for it and song. And then I'm like, what a clever way to do that. And then I'm thinking, this is for kids, and the idea is she just murdered the Dalmatians and made them a coat. And then they quickly scrub over that after. They're like, oh, it's insinuated. Did she actually do it? And then you see the dogs are fine.
That's one of the main things of Cruella is that she hates dogs. She wants to make a coat out of these dogs. And in this movie, the origin is more like, no, I was just kidding. I was just doing that to like intimidate her. And it's kind of, and that's where I felt like the movie was pulled in two directions. Horace and Jasper, kind of decent-ish characters, but like I said before, Horace, all he is there is
pretty
to be
flat,
like,
flat.
I didn't know if I didn't like the character, I didn't like the performance, but all it was is, what's the angle? And then Jasper sits there and he just takes abuse from Cruella as she becomes more and more annoying, and you're like, these people don't seem like friends. Emma Stone Cruella's getting less likable as it goes on, and you don't find yourself rooting for anybody towards the end. So it kind of fell flat. The thing that really took me out of it, though, was the whole ending. I'm not going to get into the setup, but it all feels very manufactured, very overwritten. She has this big setup where she's going to frame the Baroness for killing her in the same exact place that her foster mother died. The Baroness pushes Estella / Cruella off a cliff, and then Mary Poppins pulls a parachute.
Oh my God, I forgot about this part.
They signaled earlier in the movie saying that, the reason that she got into fashion is because they were making all these disguises for the heists. And so there is stuff that would say that she's good at making costumes but she literally just...
Yeah, it was like a Mission Impossible stunt. It was ridiculous.
Which, when you compare it to the rest of the movie, that's so straight-faced, so very serious about loss and loyalty and all this, and then she's fucking pulling out parachutes and then, flying through the air in this really bad CGI scene. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to be a serious movie that's based off a Disney property, or are you trying to be a Disney movie? Because you can't be both. I said several times, this would have worked as an animated movie because within the realm of animation, you can take some of those goofier things because it's not real people. But as soon as Emma Stone pulls out a parachute and flies down in CGI, you're like, this is fake. It looks fake, and it clashes with tones. And that's a lot of those parts are the reason I was like, man, you had a lot of great performances, and then you kind of screwed the pooch, so to speak, with the script and the storytelling. But everything else is really strong. So
absolutely, I feel like this is it's a strong, enjoyable movie that is let down by being overwritten, like a lot of movies are, and is too long. But
there's so many cute dogs, which is true.
And if you just went through and just like chopped up some of these parts we don't need and had a stronger, tighter ending, I think it would be like one of the better movies of the year and like a pretty clever take on how to do this.
I think this is one of the better Disney live action films. It's better. I'm someone who liked Aladdin, but I still think it's got more strength as a movie than Aladdin. Generally speaking,
the live action Aladdin.
Look, I just really like Aladdin as a property, which is what I was saying.
But
earlier,
that's exactly what they want. They want you to really like Aladdin as a property, so you'll go watch the Will Smith Aladdin.
I'm not impervious to all of Disney's tricks, Matt. Sometimes when it happens with Cruella. This is also, I didn't watch 101 Dalmatians a million times. I watched it once or twice, whereas Aladdin, as a child, I had that VHS like in and out. The tape was spinning, So,
but this is for people that did watch 101 Dalmatians over and over again.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anything specific? I mean, we already talked a lot about the visuals of the film, the costuming. Yeah. Was there any moment in specific that really stuck out to you? The one for me is in the early moments of the movie, or the first 30 minutes, Cruella has kind of conned her way into working at this fashion department store. Yeah. And there's this really long tracking shot where they're kind of guiding the camera through the fashion store. You're seeing everybody doing their jobs and trying to sell stuff.
Goodfellas shot.
Yeah, and then you see her cleaning the floor as a janitor. It's just this really long tracking shot, and I really appreciated not only, once again, it was highlighting the costuming, the place and time, the set design, and I was really wrapped up in the world. And then some of those scenes, like you had said, where the Baroness is having a party, and then Cruella makes a big, awesome entrance in some very, very cool looking.
When that like car, the big truck shows up, they open it up, her dress just spills out, and it drives away, and it's the biggest dress you've ever seen. There's so many like cool, badass rock star, punk star moments.
Which is why I hate to be like, I didn't like this movie, because I did. I just didn't like the story. And for me, the story mattered more in the Cruella movie than I thought it was going to.
Which I think is just all the parts that that we're agreeing on not liking. I think it's just Disney forcing it in. Like, well, it needs to be more Cruella. It needs to tie in. If you just remove Disney from the equation, this movie would be way stronger if it was just about somebody not named Cruella.
That's kind of all I have on Cruella. I thought it was a decent time. The story didn't work, but once again, I don't think I'm the target audience because I didn't have a lot of nostalgia for Cruella. I didn't have a lot of nostalgia for 101 Dalmatians. I like the property. I like the idea. I like the performances a lot. Emma Thompson kills it. Emma Stone kills it. And I think Emma Stone is beautiful. So I'll watch her in awesome costumes all day. But it could have used a little chop and cut. Do you want to do a thumbs up, thumbs down for this one? Or you just want to leave it at a...
I would give this one and maybe a half a thumbs up. I think it's so close to being really good, but if we are sticking with just a one, then it has to just be a one. But I give it 1.5 thumbs.
See, if we were changing our rating scale, I would give it one of these.
Okay.
But I'm gonna have to go this.
Ooh.
But that's where I would also do this if we had the option. But
we do have the option. We can do anything we want.
This is me saying, meh. For most people watching, you're gonna thumbs up. You're gonna do this. I'm more like, it depends.
But I wasn't for everyone.